Welcome back, guys. Today, we finally made it to week one of the NFL season, as I'm going to drop my week one NFL predictions. Now, things are going to be a little different from last season, and as you can see from the opening game, I now have a game of the week for the NFL. Normally, it's the Sunday night game, but sometimes it could be the other games. They'll usually be discussed last, but because we have the kickoff game being the first game of the season, I might as well talk about it first to get it out the way. And speaking of that, let's jump right into it. Starting off with the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, the two-time reigning champion of the NFL. Now, the Ravens offseason was low-key quiet. Wait, no it wasn't. They had a big running back acquisition. Y'all know him as Derrick Henry. He's now part of the Ravens. The Chiefs, they pretty much trying to find ways to looking to come the first team to three-peat in NFL history. And to help with that, they drafted Xavier Worthy, as he's pretty much expected to be that long overdue Tyreek Hill replacement. We also brought back Juju Smith-Schuster, as we don't know the current status of Rashid Rice. We'll know when or if he'll be suspended. Just because he didn't get suspended for the first 4 games of the season, he could still get suspended. But don't rule out the Chiefs' defense, which was pretty much the anchor of that team last year. Now, as for a winner, they were giving the Chiefs 3 points. Arrowhead's going to be fired up. But I remember saying this last year when they played the Lions, and well, let's just say Kadarius Toney did let that team down last year. He's now gone. So I think the Chiefs shouldn't have a problem to win this game here. But I do expect this to be a very fun, entertaining game. Probably the best game of week one. And following that, we have the Green Bay Packers taking on the Philadelphia Eagles in Sao Paulo, Brazil, only exclusively streaming on Peacock. And oh boy, before I even talk about the game itself, the NFL bungled this big time, because I would talk about the gang situation in Brazil and how wearing green there is pretty much, let's just say, it's viable for your health. But why? But the NFL said, why not have the two teams that wear green anyway to play in a country where wearing green could be seen as a threat to rival gangs? And that pretty much soured me on this game. And I kind of feel bad for Darius Slay. He made a comment saying he really didn't want to play this game, as he didn't even invite his family, knowing the gang situation. I think AJ Brown also reiterated saying he's not leaving the hotel at all this week. So NFL, this is probably gonna be the only time they'll go to Brazil in their whole existence. But anyway, let's finally get to the game itself. Green Bay Packers, they added Josh Jacobs. Jordan Love, he's becoming a multi-million-dollar quarterback this offseason, despite not knowing who his top number one receiver is this year. As for Philadelphia, once again they had the best offseason, adding Saquon Barkley, shedding Hassan Reddick, replacing him with Bryce Huff, drafting not one but two of the top corners in the NFL draft. And they not only that, and just recently acquiring Jahan Dotson with the from the Washington Commanders. Now the Eagles are favored by 2.5 points in this game. I do think this could be close. I do think Green Bay has a shot to win this game. But for now, it all boils down to Saquon Barkley. I am going to roll with the Green Bay Packers to win this. Philadelphia Eagles to win this game. I think they're the more talented team, but I will not be surprised if Green Bay wins. And following that, we're on to Sunday's slate, where the Pittsburgh Steelers will travel to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Pittsburgh Steelers, they added not one but two quarterbacks in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, while shoring up the offensive line in the NFL draft. But all eyes are on the Falcons, as they added Kirk Cousins, coming off a torn Achilles, formerly of the Vikings. Now, without Arthur Smith, many people are expecting Drake London, Bijan Robinson, and Kyle Pitts all to have breakout seasons, and so am I. Falcons right now, to me, are the division favorites to win. But, however, here's something that many people don't know about. The Steelers are 15-2 against the Falcons. And Falcons are known for letdown games, especially at the start of the season. More so Kirk Cousins, so it does fit the norm. And part of me wants to pick the Pittsburgh Steelers to win this game. But then again, I ended up rolling with, I'm going to go ahead and roll with the Falcons because I think they got enough on their offense to help offset all the Pittsburgh Steelers struggles. I do think this could be a down year for the Steelers this year. And it takes us right into the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Buffalo Bills. Cardinals, this is just year 2 of the rebuild, although they ended their season in a bit of a high note. But Buffalo, this is what happened. This is the reason why you should not pay Von Miller all that money, because it pretty much they had a big cut spree this off season. As Stephon Diggs, he was traded. Gabriel Davis, he's gone to Jacksonville. They had Mitch Morse, he got cut. And not only that, Tre'Davious White, the oft-injured corner, he's now gone off the team. Buffalo, this is a sign of an example of what happens when you don't win the big one, because the band's starting to break up. Now, the Bills are indeed favored by 6.5 points. They should win this game, but I don't know. If all the question will be is, who's Josh Allen going to throw the ball to? Is it going to be his tight ends? Is it going to be James Cook? Is it going to be Keon Coleman? Is it going to be Shakir? That's going to be interesting to see from Buffalo. I'm not going to lie, I am leaning towards taking the Cardinals in this game, because week 1 is the week of many upsets, and I think this might be the big upset of the week. I'm going to roll with the road team, Arizona Cardinals, to go on the road, get a huge opening day win over the Buffalo Bills. Next, we have the Tennessee Titans taking on the Chicago Bears as we begin the Caleb Williams era in Chicago. Now, let's talk about the Bears. But they're doing everything they can to make sure he succeeds. They got Keenan Allen from the Chargers. They drafted Rome Odunze with that second top 10 pick. And the defense, they had some insurance too, because Montez Sweat signed a pretty big contract to stay with the team. He was pretty much the thing that turned around that defense last year. As for the Titans, they also had a pretty good offseason. They added they didn't add DeAndre Hopkins. They added Calvin Ridley from formerly of Jacksonville, and they acquired L'Jarius Sneed from Kansas City. Now, the big question with the Tennessee Titans is, this team is only going to go as far as Will Levis takes them. He showed some promise last year, but he knows he could do a little better. And that's what I want to see. Now, the Bears, with all the hype they have, they're 4 points favorites. I might go on another upset. Again, week 1 is the most unpredictable week of the season. I'm going to roll with the Tennessee Titans to win on the road to beat the Bears week 1. And then we have the New England Patriots taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. The Patriots was supposed to start the Drake May era. However, they decided to roll with Jacoby Brissett for the first couple of games because, that offensive line is terrible. Bengals, they want to forget about last year as Joe Burrow and most of the Bengals team was injured. He's now back fully healthy. But, however, Jamar Chase's status is very, very unknown given his current contract situation. But now they're 7.5 favorites, and spoiler alert, this is the biggest spread of the weekend. A lot of people will probably take this as an eliminator pick of the week. I'm also going to roll with the Cincinnati Bengals to win, and I think they're going to do it with their defense in this one. And then we have the Houston Texans taking on the Indianapolis Colts, and we're picking up where we left off from last year because this was the game that decided the division, as the Texans went on the road and got the win. Now, the Texans are building off of that surprise playoff run they had last year. They added Stephon Diggs. They got Joe Mixon now. on that team. And the defense, I think they added Danielle Hunter on that defense as well. So the Texans, they're pretty much they're seeking that their first ever AFC Championship game, which I can see happening, but the AFC is still kind of top loaded. Meanwhile, for the Colts, the big question for them is, can Anthony Richardson stay healthy? His rookie season was lost last year due to a shoulder injury, but his upside is still very high. Now this game, I actually do think this is going to be a very interesting game to watch. I am going to roll with the Houston Texans to win on the road, but I will not be surprised if the Colts pull this one off. Then we have the Battle of Florida with, I almost said the Miami Hurricanes for a second, the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Miami Dolphins. And for Jacksonville, they're hoping that this season, doesn't start off like last season, as if we haven't figured it out, and ended in a collapse. 8-3 at one point, number one seed in the AFC, to 9-8, missing the playoffs entirely. As for the Miami Dolphins, slightly similar situation. They also had a division lead last year, but they blew it against Buffalo. Had to play in cold Kansas City, proving everyone that this team cannot win in December. Now Tua, they gave him the big bucks this year, so they're banking on him to get this team past January. Now, luckily, this game is in Miami. I think the weather will probably play a role in this one. 3.5 favorites. I'm surprised it's this low. I'm gonna go ahead and take the Miami Dolphins to win this game. I think this is gonna be could be a surprising offensive shootout in this one. And yeah, let's go with the Dolphins. And now we have the Carolina Panthers taking on the New Orleans Saints. Panthers, less said about last season, the better. But they try to do everything to do damage control from last year. Dave Canales, new head coach. I like the hire. They acquired Deontay Johnson from the Pittsburgh Steelers. They also drafted Xavier Leggett, the wide receiver from South Carolina, even though he's wide receiver 4 on that team. They dropped and then also signed not one but 2 guards, offensive guards, to big contracts to help protect Bryce Young. This whole game and season is going to be on how much Bryce Young can improve. As for the New Orleans Saints, they're stuck in mid-tier, and they've been kind of stuck there for like 4 years now. Since Drew Brees retired, they've been stuck in the mid. Derek Carr did not have a good season last year, but hopefully he's able to shake it off last year, shake off whatever happened to him last year, and build on this year. But the Saints right now, yeah, they're going to be in cap. They're still in cap hell. There's no way around it. But for this game, they are giving the Saints 4 points in this one. I will say, I will not be surprised if Carolina could win, but I am going to roll with the New Orleans Saints to win this one. They're at home, and I do believe they're the slightly more talented team on the field. Now we have the Minnesota Vikings taking on the New York Giants. And the Vikings, the season hasn't even started yet, and they're already on the injury front. J.J. McCarthy, his rookie season was lost due to he had a meniscus injury. And also, let me also say rest in peace to Kyrie Jackson, a young man whose career in life went away way too soon. So rest in peace to him. And yeah, the Vikings did not have a good offseason at all. As for the New York Giants, we did get to see what they did in the offseason through their hard knocks. And this will be the first game for Daniel Jones since his torn ACL. All eyes are going to be on him. Also, this will be the first game without Saquon Barkley. As I already stated, he is now part of the Eagles. Now for this game, I think this one's going to be a really true toss-up. It could go in any direction. I could see the Giants winning, but I am going to go with the road team, Minnesota Vikings, to get a surprising win in MetLife Stadium. Then again, part of me want to take this back because Sam Darnold always struggles in this building. Whether he played for the Jets or that one trip he took there when he was in Carolina. Just keep that in mind. And then we have an AFC West showdown between the Las Vegas Raiders traveling to LA to take on the Los Angeles Chargers in the Raiders home game. Let's be real. The Raiders are going to have a lot. There's going to be a lot of silver and black in that building. But for the Raiders, they decided to roll with Antonio Pierce as their full-time head coach, and they have an identity, a defensive identity. As for their offense, it could be a lot to be desired. They did lose Josh Jacobs this offseason, so that's something to keep an eye on. As for the Chargers, they entered the Jim Harbaugh era as he Pete Carrolled his way out of Michigan, because we all know Michigan's facing some serious sanctions from the NCAA. But anyway, so Harbaugh decided to run. But what did it cost him? This team has no wide receivers. Sure, they drafted Ladd McConkey, and they're praying that Quentin Johnson can find his hands, because last year he had a very rough rookie season. So as for this game goes, they're giving the Chargers 3 points. I'm very surprised about that. And I went back and forth, but I don't know how healthy Justin Herbert is right now, because he is coming back from that foot injury he had in the training camp. So I'm actually going to go with the Raiders to win this game. I'm not expecting a lot of scoring in this one. This might be a very low scoring game, but I think the Raiders will do just enough to get the win. But I won't be surprised if the Chargers pull it off. And then we have the Denver Broncos taking on the Seattle Seahawks. And the Broncos, it's now the Bo Nix era can officially begin. He had a very good, impressive preseason. He earned his right to start for the team. As for the Seahawks, very quiet. They now have Mike Macdonald as their head coach. They're hoping that their defense, which was a big liability for Seattle last year, that could improve this year. And I'm probably one of the few believers that believe in Seattle in making the playoffs. And I caught a lot of flack in my playoff prediction video for putting Seattle as the 6th seed. And yes, I will eat my words if they don't make the playoffs. But as is, 6-point favorites. They're in Seattle, tough place to play. This shouldn't be a problem for Seattle, but I could see it. But if Bo Nix lives up to that preseason hype, this could be a very fun game to watch. And then we have the Tom Brady's debut broadcast game, where the NFL could continue to shove the Dallas Cowboys into the national TV face as they travel to Cleveland to take on the Browns. Cowboys went all in re-signing Ezekiel Elliott. They didn't do anything this last offseason, although they did pay CeeDee Lamb just in time before week 1. Even I saw that coming. And meanwhile, Cleveland, they also had a more quiet offseason than you think. They did add Jerry Jeudy, but this season will be one thing. Is Deshaun Watson going to ever go back to his Houston Texan form? Because his stint in Cleveland, not a good one. And last year pretty much ended on a shoulder injury. Is he a liability on Cleveland? And don't forget, Nick Chubb, he's not going to be playing the first 4 games of the season, so he's not going to have him to bail him out. But luckily, this could be the Amari Cooper revenge game, as he was wrongfully traded by the Dallas Cowboys. And so for this game, I think this is going to be one of those weird games. A lot of crazy stuff's going to happen. I do think Cleveland's defense is going to make life a living hell for Dak Prescott. I'm going to roll with the Browns to beat the Dallas Cowboys. And then we go into Tampa Bay as the Washington Commanders taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Commanders could start the Jaden Daniels era. Hopefully they do not screw him over like they did RG3. Now, the Commanders, they added a lot of old weapons. Just like pretty much I heard they added Bobby Wagner. A bunch of former Cowboys are now on the team. Tyler Biadasz, Dorrance Armstrong. But the question is for Jaden Daniels, outside of Terry McLaurin, who he's going to throw the ball to? Because Jahan Dotson, he's gone. De'Ami Brown, he's a fine little option, but he hasn't proved himself yet. I'm very concerned about the Washington receiving options in this game. Meanwhile, Tampa Bay is trying to repeat their success of last year. Because Baker Mayfield, he finally woke up dangerous. And he had probably his best season yet to date. He got a nice little contract too. They was able to keep Mike Evans on for another 2 years. I'm not going to see Mike Evans play in another uniform. Just saying. Putting that out there. And Tampa's defense, I mean, they ended the season on a very strong note. They went to the division round. Oh, they did come up short, but there's a lot to like about Tampa. Now, the question is, I know this cycle of Baker Mayfield. When he has expectations, he flounders. When he don't have expectations, he thrives. Which Baker Mayfield we're going to get? Tampa is favored by 3.5 points as of the making of this video. I am going to go with the home team, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to win this game. But I do think Jaden Daniels would do just enough to put on a show. A nice little first impression for him. And then we have the Sunday night matchup between the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Detroit Lions. And the Rams are kicking off the post-Aaron Donald era. He retired this offseason with little to nothing left to play for. And for Matthew Stafford, this will be his second time back in Detroit as a member of the Los Angeles Rams. So this is the rematch of the divisional round where Detroit finally exercised their playoff demons, won a playoff game, en route to an NFC Championship title berth, which they came up short against the 49ers. Now, Detroit, they have a ton of expectations. This team is projected to make the playoffs, projected to win the NFC North, and according to me, projected to go to the Super Bowl. Now, for this team, now in hindsight, because the Rams' defense is pretty young, I think the Rams' offense can try and keep up with Detroit, but at the end of the day, it's Detroit's party. You're just living in it. I'm rolling with the Lions to win. And last but not least, we have the New York Jets taking on the San Francisco 49ers in Monday Night Football. Wait a minute. Aaron Rodgers, Monday Night Football. Leonard Floyd now plays with the 49ers. Oh, God. But anyway, the New York Jets, hopefully Aaron Rodgers is healthy and recovered from that torn Achilles. The NFL said he owes them a lot of primetime games. So they putting this one on Monday night again. Meanwhile, for the 49ers, oh boy, this was an off season. And before I talk about this team, I want to give my thoughts and prayers to Ricky Pearsall. He got shot a couple days ago. He is going to make a full recovery. My prayers, hopefully he has a safe recovery. Putting that out there. But the 49ers, oh boy, they had an off season, as they had contract disputes with Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams that they eventually resolved, but it's going to put this team in serious cap hell, especially when it comes to the Brock Purdy contract, which will be talked about in a year or two. Now in this game, 4.5 favorites for the 49ers. I think this game is going to be a very interesting game. But I'm going to say this. I'm going to go with the 49ers to win this game. I'm going to go ahead and say that. I think this game is going to go to overtime. The Niners going to be pinned at the 2-yard line, and Christian McCaffrey will score a walk-off 98-yard touchdown to end the game. If you get the reference, you get the reference. But anyway, that concludes Week 1's NFL prediction. Tell me what y'all think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Please gamble safely, and I'll see you next time.